Good evening, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Andr Khambatar. And for our top stories, political parties demand all witnesses to be present for the ETT call public hearing. $1.53 million in damages to be paid to the family of Altantuya Shaariibuu. Journalists initiated a campaign directed to child well-being. And for the news, stay tuned. On Monday, representatives of political parties in parliament made a statement regarding the investigation of the theft of witness town hall call. According to recent reports, former president of Mongolia, Batullah Haltma, who has been named in the investigation, has left the country prior to a public hearing. Parliament's Economic Standing Committee is scheduled to organize a public hearing on coal shipment and exports on December 21st.
I'm a member of the working group on the coal theft hearing, which will be held this Wednesday, the 20th. The only basic requirement was the presence of 17 people whose names were recently announced. We should ask Ganhuik, the executive director of Witness Town Hall, to be present at the public hearing. We should ask him who made him do this. Recently, 5 members included in the list of 17 names said they were falsely accused. Let's hear from them. Due to a lack of action, the person who was at the top of the list, the former president, fled the country due to cold medical conditions. As I recall, he was an athlete, one of the toughest and healthiest men I have known. So I don't believe that he had health issues that were so serious that he had to leave the country during the FIFA finals. I already said that people under investigation should not leave the country and that travel restrictions should be imposed. Urgent action is needed, or everyone linked to this investigation will leave the country. We learned from media report that the Independent Authority Against Corruption released Batullah from custody on December 18th and he flew to Singapore. So as a lawyer, I have a few questions. Was the investigator or commissioner under pressure? Because releasing someone from custody is one of the least severe measures. Did he submit a request to the prosecutor and court for travel restrictions? Was the release from the custody the only solution in this case because he hadn't received permission from the court or prosecutor's office to detain him? In this case, we should talk about the accountability of the Independent Authority Against Corruption Commissioner and the General Prosecutor, depending on who didn't take appropriate measures. Another question is if the medical condition was too difficult to treat in Mongolia.
A Malaysian High Court has ordered the government and 3 others to pay 5 million Malaysian ringgit or $1.53 million in damages to the family of Mongolian model Altantuya Shaariibuu, who was murdered in 2006. Civil court judge Wazir Alim Vidin Mera, who made the ruling on Friday morning, said that the victim's family had successfully proven their claim against the former Malaysian government official. On Monday, Altantuya's father attended a press conference and shared his thoughts on the court outcome.
The judge's verdict in favor of the family, issued during an online proceeding, comes 15 years after a civil action was filed in 2007. Altantuya's parents, Dr. Shaariibuu Setov and Altan Sanja, and their grandsons Mongolian Bayrjargal and Altan Muhtulg filed a suit against former policeman Sirul Azhar Umar and Azila Khadri, political analyst Abdul Razak Baginda, and the Malaysian government. Altan Shah's name was removed from the plaintiffs' list when he died in 2017. In their statement of claim, the family said Altantuya's death resulted in them suffering shock and psychological trauma and sought compensation and exemplary and aggravated damages. A total of 26 witnesses for the plaintiffs, including Dr. Shaariibuu and Altantuya's eldest son Bayrhu, testified at the trial which began in 2019.
For the past 17 years, we have attended numerous court hearings. Kids were left without a parent, and we are all left with miserable lives. For the past several years, I've wanted only one thing, a single apology. Me and my wife, people who were aware of this case not only in Mongolia, but also abroad, Mongolia, we all waited for this outcome for so long. It's been 3 days, and we've finally received our well-deserved apology.
For the last 16 years, Altantuya's father Shaariibuu has appealed to all possible institutions, starting with international NGOs, the UN, governments, and human rights organizations. He submitted about 300 appeals and requests and attended court hearings and procedures in Malaysia 12 times. During this time, he learned that many Mongolians had become victims of human trafficking and drug-related crimes in Malaysia.
There are victims of drug-related crimes who were sentenced by Malaysian courts. I'm not talking about the number of human trafficking cases there. Finally, a fair outcome from a fair and just government. As we started appealing for this case, the current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim was also detained. All the main guilty parties were in high-ranking government positions. Today, former Prime Minister Razak and his wife are getting their jail time.
The government presented 3 witnesses while Abdul Razak chose not to testify. Altantuya was murdered in October 2006 and her body was blown up with military-grade explosives. Azilah and Sirul were found guilty of her murder and sentenced to death in 2009. Abdul Razak, a former aide to then Deputy Prime Minister Najib Razak, was charged with abetting the duo but was later acquitted without his defense being called.
The Warm Shoes campaign is intended to become a nationwide campaign covering the country starting from Mutnit City. The initiator of the Warm Shoes campaign, Chugmit, is a journalist, and she initiated this campaign to support children who are in need of warm shoes.
Chugmit has a passion for others and is a journalist, saying that being a journalist is always at the forefront of life. She saw children without warm clothes and shoes about 10 years ago and decided to help them. Children who are happy to have warm shoes rather than sweets and chocolates are the main reason and motivation behind continuing this campaign. By bringing together this unimaginable force of volunteers, we aim to create a culture where Mongolians help their fellow Mongolians. On top of that, the Warm Shoes campaign is ethical and pays close attention to children's mindset. Also, in the process of the distribution of shoes, we try not to show or display children's face for ethical purposes. This campaign is being carried out widely. Water distributors and grocers in remote Ger neighborhood know a lot about the living standards of the people. Residents said that there are many children who wear thin shoes, such as sneakers, in -30 degrees in winter.
Today, people's lives are becoming difficult. Some children are walking in their summer shoes, and you can see it when you enter our store.
The Warm Shoes campaign, which first started in Irden City, is now expanding to Ulaanbaatar City and all 21 provinces. At one donation point in Ulaanbaatar, more than 100 pairs of shoes and clothes have been collected. However, the participation of government organizations is needed to make these donations accessible to the target group of children. Registration of children at public institutions is very good, and when we approach them, it's fine if the registry gives us the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the children who need help based on their research and cooperation with us. Some kids need a hug more than any gifts. Hugs can be expressed through words, actions, and affection. Chugmit said that all the little children of our country, with a population of just over 3 million, should stay warm in freezing winter.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here's the international news from our partner agencies. The UK-led Joint Expeditionary Force is meeting in the Latvian capital Riga to discuss the security implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and how to continue to support the country's defensive capabilities.
President of Finland responds to comments by French President Emmanuel Macron that Russia should be provided with security guarantees.
It was a part of his larger speech, but who needs security here? It's Russian neighbors. And if Russia can give some kind of security guarantees to its neighbors, why not to give Russia back similar level and with similar credibility?
Leaders are also expected to enhance cooperation among GEF nations to strengthen their defense against hybrid threats and protect critical national infrastructure, the UK Prime Minister's office said. They will also discuss support to Finland and Sweden ahead of the two Scandinavian countries joining NATO, as well as scaling up joint exercises within the GEF alliance. The 10-nation group, which comprises the Nordic and Baltic states as well as the UK and the Netherlands, is designed to react more quickly in the event of threats like those now posed by Russia. The GF is not a standing force.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that Iran's supply of drones to Russia was part of a terrorist international and that the two countries would be held accountable.
Today's morning in several regions and cities of our country was unfortunately ruined by the characteristic sound of the Iranian Shaheds, but most of them luckily fell short of their intended targets, and that made our morning a little better today. 30 Shaheds were shot down, not bad. I thank all our anti-aircraft fighters, pilots and mobile fire groups for this result and for the protection of the Ukrainian sky. And I'm especially grateful to the 96th Kiev and 208th Kherson anti-aircraft missile brigades, which showed the greatest accuracy today. These Shaheds, which were used by Russia, are from a new patch of drones. This is the terrorist international of two regimes they help fight against people. Well, both of them will be held to account for it.
At the same time, the president said in his nightly video address that 30 drones were shot down by Ukrainian aid defense systems. In an uncharacteristic tangent away from the Russian invasion, Zelensky addressed Georgia and threw his weight behind jailed controversial ex-president Mikhail Saakashvili, who is currently on his second hunger strike behind bars.
I want to turn now to all our friends and just conscientious people in Georgia. Probably everyone could see the health condition of Mikhail Saakashvili now. Therefore, I appeal to the people of Georgia, to the authorities of Georgia. It's necessary to show mercy, especially on the eve of Christmas. What is happening to Mikhailo now is cruelty. This doesn't suit Georgia. This must be stopped. Please make a decision that can save his life. Transfer Mikhail Saakashvili to one of the clinics of Ukraine, another European country, America. It's high time to take this good step.
Zelensky implored Georgian authorities to show mercy to the firebrand politician who is part Ukrainian and was appointed head of the Odessa region after he left Georgian politics under a cloud of accusations of abuse of power. The main opposition party in Georgia earlier this month filed a court case calling for Saakashvili to be released for medical examination overseas because of concerns he is suffering from poisoning.
Thai Navy ships and helicopters are searching for more than 30 sailors still missing more than 12 hours after their warship sank in rough seas in the Gulf of Thailand. The Navy says that 75 sailors have been rescued and 31 are still missing.
Admiral Chonchai Chomchompe, the Navy's chief, told Thai media Monday afternoon after visiting surviving crew at a makeshift rescue center that 31 sailors remained as missing persons and that the search is continuing. The HTMS Sukhothai corvette sank Sunday night after strong winds blew seawater on board and knocked out the ship's electrical system. The loss of power allowed more seawater to flow into the vessel, causing it to list and sink. 3 frigates and 2 helicopters were conducting the search and rescue operations. The high waves have lessened since the sinking, but are still high enough to endanger small boats. Several sailors described being swept away from the ship by crushing waves and floated for 3 hours before being rescued.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. Great Britain's Scott Brash rode Hello Jefferson to the FEI Champion World Cup on Sunday, seeing off an elite field to take the gold medal in London.
Scott and his Tokyo Olympic and 2022 World Championship ride gave a masterclass jump-off display, topped off by a mighty gallop to the last to finish less than 0.5 seconds ahead of Germany's Daniel Dussier and Killer Queen VDM, with Jodie Holm-McKitty just over a third of a second behind. Brash won the 8th leg of the 2022-2023 Longines FEI Champion World Cup Western European League meeting and will look ahead to the next leg in Mechelen, Belgium, with renewed confidence. Third place went to Britain's Jodie Holm-McKitty and Salt and Pepper. Holm-McKitty went last in the jump-off and came close to beating Brash before crossing the line in 40.14 seconds. The oldest pony to compete at this year's London International Horse Show secured the overall 2022 SSADL Supreme In-Hand Championship. The evergreen 33-year-old gelding Charlie Brown, handled by his owner Emma Coates, sparkled his way around the famous arena to secure the hearts of judges Penny Clifford and Jackie Webb, despite being an impressive 18 years older than the required age of a senior contender.
Reports in the British media suggest that the two prize players have received racial abuse on social media after Sunday's World Cup final defeat to Argentina.
Kingsley Coman and Arielin Tchouameni were subjected to vile messages on their account after missing penalties in the shootout. France were beaten 4-2 in the penalty shootout after Coman's effort was saved by Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez, while Tchouameni's shot went wide. Coman's club Bayern Munich have since posted a message of support for the 26-year-old winger. The abuse received by the French players is similar to what occurred following England's loss to Italy on penalties in the Euro 2020 final last year. After that game, Bukayo Saka and Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, who all missed penalties, received racist abuse online. The South American side defeated previous holders France 4-2 in the shootout after the two teams had played out an enthralling 3-3 draw over 120 minutes. The victory marked Messi's first World Cup triumph to put the icing on the 35-year-old's glittering, trophy-laden career, while Argentina have won international football's biggest prize for a third time. France, whose own star forward Kylian Mbappe scored a hat-trick in the final and won the Golden Boot award, missed the opportunity to become the first country since Brazil in 1958 and 1962 to retain the World Cup, and they failed to secure a third triumph over their own, having won the 1998 and 2018 tournaments.
Here's the weather forecast of all major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.